Hello, I'm Errington Thompson, and this is Old School Guys talking old school music, and I have my good friend Larry Fulcher. Larry, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man, and I'm enjoying the heck out of this and going through these tunes, because now we're getting down to the part of the list that you really want people to know these songs. You really, really, really do.
So we are counting down 100 songs that Larry and I and a few of my buddies have put together. And these are the songs that we think every 20 and 30-something should listen to. We admit at the top that this is arbitrary, and that and there's no doubt about it. This is arbitrary. These are songs that we really like and really love. What else you got to add to that, Larry? Before we start, we'll go to, I think it's number 50. We're actually number 60 is what we'll be going to.
This may sound sacrilegious, but these are some of God's favorite songs as well. You know, I think I think people should keep that in mind as they're listening.
No doubt about that. One of my favorite groups growing up, and it was a group that I never really thought got the accolades that they deserved, was the OJs. This is a group that seemed to turn out hit after hit, but never really seemed to be, they weren't mentioned in the same breath as, say, the Temptations or the Supremes, although I think they should be. What are your thoughts on the OJs before we get to their song, Backstabbers?
Maybe they didn't get, say, the crossover pop thing that the Temptations got, other than, say, a song like Put Your Hands Together, which I think was number one in every country on the planet. But I don't think they were recognized as being just as musically good as they are. Their two lead singers, Walt Williams and Eddie Levert, are two of the best singers on earth. They stand toe-to-toe with anyone that was ever in the Temptations or any of those other groups. They're just amazing, amazing singers. And their music, due to the fact that they had Gamble and Huff, a lot of it was really good social conscious music. And maybe they weren't huge heroes in the pop community, but in the black community, they were like semi-gods still to this day.
And so the tune that we have on here is that comes in on our list as number 60 is Backstabbers, and it's off their album Backstabbers. What are your thoughts on this tune? It seems to me to be one of those wonderfully produced tunes that really highlight the voices of these guys.
There was a trio of tunes that the OJs did that followed the same kind of musical format in terms of chorus, arrangement, chord patterns. One was called, preceding Backstabbers, there was a song called 992 Arguments.
Yes.
Well, no, I take it back. Before that was a song called One Night Affair. And then 992 Arguments, and Backstabbers was the gem of that trio. Just the intro of it, the bass part, the studio band, it's just incredible. I can remember the days if you played it once, you would play this tune 5 times in a row. Easily.
Absolutely a great tune. And I will have on our blog, which is oldschoolguys.net, I will have all of these tunes, of course, that you can get to and listen to and watch and enjoy. The next tune that we have, which is number 59 on our list, is a song by Nirvana. It's called "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and that is really the song that started the grunge movement.
It did, but it's one of those perfect pop tunes for whatever reasons. The chord changes, the verse to the hook, very few people understood what the heck he was saying, but it was just a good, catchy pop tune. The changes, the little guitar hook lines, it all brought you in. It all drew you in. And something about his voice, the anguish or whatever. And, it was a play on words. There was a deodorant called Teen Spirit. Do you remember that?
Right.
So you had a little bit of branding so people would, have something to associate it with. And that's important in the marketing of a tune. But it's a great tune. None of those guys were, other than Dave Grohl, who was just a standout musician no matter what he plays. But the other guys were, not supreme musicians, but the three of them together and that songwriting left an imprint. Whether you like grunge, whether you like rock, no matter who, that tune was very catchy.
So just to prove that we are trying to cut across all genres and include, as you say, God's music. Mm-hmm. The next tune on our list, which comes in at number 58, is Love Supreme by John Coltrane. And let me just play a part of it that our listeners can listen to a part of this. And Love Supreme is really a suite. The tune is made up of 4 parts, and I think it's 40 minutes long. Really, really cool. Larry, tell us a little bit about this song.
This song to me is the whole album is like a worship service. It's like a sermon. It's like a church service. It opens up with the sound of like a Middle Eastern thing where the bells go off in the morning and you get up and you worship. John's music to me is a prayer. Always. 4 supreme musicians, Jimmy Garrison on bass, McCoy Tyner on keyboards, Elvin Jones, God's favorite drummer, hands down. God told me so. And John Coltrane. He's like a prophet to me musically. It's like if I had to describe it, it's like Miles was John the Baptist, and Coltrane was the messenger.
Just for our listeners, on Miles's iconic album "Kind of Blue," John Coltrane was one of the saxophone players that really gave that album its sound. Cannonball Adderley was another one, but Coltrane is unmistakable on that album.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't understand what Train was doing. They said he was doing too much. He just overplayed, but Miles was one of his champions. Miles said, "No, he's on my records. Just listen. If I say he's good, he's good," and he's phenomenal. He's my favorite musician of all time. He's my favorite pastor of all time. His music to me is a church service. He said it was all devoted to God. It was all searching for, to get on a God-like vibration musically, and I think he came pretty close.
It's an amazing album, and again, it's on our list, so of course we recommend it to everybody. The next tune, again, switching gears, is a woman that this had a voice that was more than unique. It was transcendent. Whitney Houston and "I Will Always Love You."
Are you playing it?
What are your thoughts? That's our number. Go ahead.
She had a generational voice, man. She almost sang too good. It was just pure. It wasn't the soulfulness of an Aretha or the pyrotechnics of a Mariah Carey, but it was just pure tone and talent and phrasing. And this tune, a Dolly Parton song that Dolly had tried to get other people to cover, and with no luck. I've forgotten. I don't know if it was. She said it was Willie or someone that she tried to sell the song to, and they wanted half of her publishing, and she said, no. But but Dolly says when she heard this version, she had to pull over and just listen, and that tells you a lot, because Dolly is no slouch.
No, Dolly is not, and she's actually on our list also. Mm-hmm. So let's go on to and first of all, this is one of my "I Will Always Love You" is one of my favorite Whitney tunes. I think that Whitney was the first person that I remember a lot of young white men who were in their 20s not only listen to, but listen to with that pop idol glaze in their eyes. She was a beautiful woman. She had a beautiful voice, and it just came through.
And she was channeled and marketed perfectly. Clive Davis, and he put her with the best producers and the best arrangers, and it worked.
You've got a young man that wants to help you there.
Who's that?
He's down there.
Oh, my grandson. Come here, buddy. This is Langston. This is my best buddy. Hey, man, how you doing?
There's nothing better than having grandkids. Grandkids are the best.
He wants to.
He cannot have the microphone though.
No,
he cannot have the mic.
Hey, buddy. You gonna stay here? You escaped from your mom? Okay.
All right. So our next tune comes in at number 58, and it was one of those explosive tunes that changed music at the time, and that's Little Richard and "Good Golly, Miss Molly."
Well, you want to talk about the birth of rock and roll, you certainly got to give Little Richard some credit. He was like so many of the R&B singers. The pop guys came along and sang their tunes and made them hits, but Little Richard was the real deal. This was rock and roll. My grandson is on my lap. Rock and roll was a sexual term.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And Little Richard was the perfect guy to deliver it. He was outrageous. He was a great musician. He had that band, the Upsetters. They were like the best musicians that there were around, and they lit a fire under it. They lit a fire under it. You had the New Orleans heat and a perfect tune. Good golly, Miss Molly, you sure like the ball. Pat Boone did not come up with those lyrics.
No, definitely not. And just for our listeners who don't know, Pat Boone did cover this song, and it is now, I don't know, something like 60 years later, and if you play the two tunes together, it's amazing that Pat Boone actually recorded that song. It's just amazing that he felt like he could get in the studio and give a version that was worth anything. I'm not trying to denigrate Pat Boone, but that's just not that. One, that was not his style, and two, the way that Little Richard did it, I don't think anybody else should do it.
No, but maybe somebody like Otis Redding.
There you go.
Someone from with that same DNA and the Macon, Georgia thing, that thing, whatever that thing is, but it's identifiable when you hear it.
Speaking of somebody who had that thing, coming in at number 55 is Aretha Franklin and You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman.
Aretha said that's one of her 3 top favorite songs that she ever did. She said she meant it. She meant every word of it. Aretha's like Coltrane to me in terms of there's a spiritual thing to her voice, no matter what she's singing. If she's singing Precious Lord or if she's singing Rock Steady, you hear that thing in her voice and you go, okay, I got you. I'm with you. I'm following you. Just do what you do and make the hairs on my arm stand up.
Here she is. And she could play the piano.
The songs that she played the piano on were the best.
I used to feel so uninspired. And when I knew I had to face another day, Lord, it made me feel so tired. Before the day I met you, life was so unkind. You're the key to my peace of mind. 'Cause you make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman.
Isn't that nice?
Man,
The arrangement is also really, really nice.
and Carole King wrote a great song. It's just a wicked song. A little side story. I first saw Aretha in one of her father's revivals. And I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and Aretha was 13 or 14, and your mom drags you to a revival. And it was all cool. And then Reverend Franklin says, okay, I'm going to bring up my 13-year-old daughter to sing, and I forget what it was that she sang. But the whole place just went to another level. You knew at that age that this was one of those voices.
Special.
Very, 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 very special. Very special. I think she and Ella Fitzgerald probably had my 2 favorite voices of the 20th century. They both just had those classic voices that you heard it and you were hooked. You had to listen.
So we'll move on to our 54, the Beatles, Hey Jude.
Iconic tune. It's not my favorite Beatles tune, but it's certainly a great song. Just a great song, and hearing the story of McCartney writing it for John's son Julian after his parents had split up, and the kid was in turmoil, and Uncle Paul wrote a song for him.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I will have to write Uncle Paul and see if he'll write a song for me and see how that goes. But it's a wonderful tune. If I'm not mistaken, it was the last hit that the Beatles had together. And of course, we have several more Beatles tunes on this list, but we had to put this one on. And then coming in at number 53 is Mahalia Jackson, Precious Lord.
This is my mom's favorite song of all time. And I don't think you can go to any black funeral where they don't sing this song at some point. It's just that tune. It's about redemption. It's about Precious Lord, take my hand. It's a song of surrender and praise at the same time. Like, I need help. Take my hand. It's a great song.
Absolutely great tune.
And Mahalia, Mahalia is another one of those voices that you hear her and you're going to stop and listen, even if you never heard the words Mahalia Jackson, you listen to that voice.
My parents had several Mahalia Jackson records, and including several of her Christmas albums, and it just seemed like you needed to stop and listen whenever one of those were on. Stopped everything you did and listen to that. It was she just had that kind of voice which commanded your attention.
Yeah, and my mom would tell us to be quiet. Even if it's a record that you own, it's Mahalia, so everybody hush. Okay, Mom.
Coming in at 53, let me just go ahead and play it for us because I just love this tune.
This drum roll.
I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour. Let's let my love come tumbling down. I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour when there's no one else around. I'm gonna take you, girl, and hold you and do all the things I told you in the midnight hour. Yes, I am. Oh, yes, I am.
Wilson Pickett, Midnight Hour, coming in at 52 on our list. What are your thoughts about Wilson Pickett and this tune? Now, first of all, let me ask you about the horns. Is that the Memphis horns?
I think this is probably, I don't know if this is Stax or Muscle Shoals.
Because it just had that feel. It had that feel to me. I didn't even think about it before as I was doing my research for this. Didn't even think about it.
Cross pollination, you know. Those sounds sonically are very similar. You know, this is one of those tunes that when I was starting to play music, if you couldn't play this tune, you couldn't work.
Wow.
Because it was going to be requested. You know, you had to play Midnight Hour, and for good reason. It's a great tune. It's a wonderful song, and Pickett's voice. You know, there aren't many voices like Pickett.
No.
That gospel voice that he brought into the soul. I mean, the soul, that was him. He was a soul singer.
Absolutely. I was trying to figure out how to characterize his voice because it is it had this kind of rough edge to it that made you want to listen to it.
Man, his first pop secular hit was this band called the Falcons, and it was called I Found Love. And his voice was so powerful, you could hear the microphone distorting, and it became part of the sound of the record. That distortion, his voice just overpowered all the machinery in the room, but in a real magical way. And there's nobody that sings like that. I mean, there were other soul singers, you know, Arthur Conley, you know, a few other guys that were close to, you know, in that
Otis
ballpark.
Redding?
Otis had a different voice. It had the same, you know, it had the roughness, but they different tonality, different.
Seemed to bring some power with his voice that might not be right. Okay.
Well, Pickett's voice would start a fight. You know, Otis's voice was exciting. It made you move. Pickett's voice had an edge to it. You know, there could have been a knife fight or a shooting at any moment. if that.
Well, let's not have one of those break out here. So in contrast to that, our next one at 51 had one of probably the smoothest, most iconic voices of the 20th century, Frank Sinatra and Fly Me to the Moon.
Mr. Cool, Mr. Smooth. That's Fly Me to the Moon. Just really nice, melodic, and it was Frank. Whether you liked him or not, you liked this tune. No matter, you didn't have to know it was Frank Sinatra when you heard it. It's just a cool tune then, and it is now. I love it.
Absolutely a great tune. And then let's finish with another guy who had a different kind of voice that, again, was very, very soulful. Al Green coming in at 50. Let's Stay Together.
Al was like the next generation of great soul singers after Pickett and Otis and those guys. He brought in the 70s smoothness. He had an edge to his voice, but he was smooth and sweet and, you know, I don't want to say silky, but a sensuous type voice. And you knew that his band, and I've recorded with some of those guys since, but at that time they were just learning how to play their instruments. So there was I don't want to say like an amateurishness, but there was you know, he said he had to work them real hard to you know, but whatever he did, those Hodges brothers on guitar and keyboard and drums, it was a sound. It was very much a sound that wrapped itself around his voice. You know, you could hear the mistakes in there occasionally. You know, the bass would do something wrong, or the horns weren't always totally on pitch, but it was soulful. You know, it was just soulful.
Let's hear a little bit of that. I mean, it's just nice. Just love it.
That voice is perfect for him to go into being a preacher, because you can hear that.
Yes.
That preacher's thing in his voice. And that band eventually got a whole lot better. So by the time they got around to things like Take Me to the River, you know, they had that. Everybody was 100% better than when they recorded this song.
My favorite, although I love this tune a lot. My favorite is Love and Happiness. I don't know. There's something about that tune that just draws me in, from the foot stamping at the beginning through the whole end. It's just a wonderful, wonderful tune.
Teeny Hodges' little guitar, like dun 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 dun. It's just simple but catchy,
effective. Yeah,
very effective. Yeah.
Well, guys, that's our I guess 50 through 60 on our top 100 songs that every 20 and 30 something should hear. We're going to finish this. I promise you. It's taken us a while to get through it, but we are persevering. We are persevering. Any words before we go?
And we're having a ball. I mean, you know, old guys talking old school music. I think that we were fortunate and blessed to grow up and be born in a century when I think America had some of the best music ever. Ever. It's not that good now. And we got to hear it be born and perfected. So I'm really glad that we got to grow up on this music and have it part of the soundtrack of our lives. We were pretty special.
So when we get together next time, we're going to talk about Ray Charles, the Four Tops, Billie Holiday, Johnny Cash, more Beatles, some Elvis, Stan Getz, Chic, Sam and Dave. Dude, this is going to be fun.
I hope y'all are taking notes.
We will have it all for you.
There'll be
Please
a test
check us out
at the end of this 100 tunes.
There you go. Make sure that you check us out over at oldschoolguys.net. I'm Errington Thompson. He is Larry Fulcher, and we're Old School Guys talking old school music.
Peace, y'all. God bless.
Thank you so much for listening.